Everyone has a group of anime that they love more than any other. Some may not be able to immediately pinpoint those series for themselves, but in this video, I'm going to be talking about my 10 favorite anime and what makes them my favorite anime. I made videos previously on some of these series, but there are also others that I have never even talked about. Before we jump into this video, if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. I make new anime and manga content every single week. Of course, this list is entirely subjective, and you guys will probably have different lists of your own, which I would love to hear about, so you can leave your list of your favorite anime in the comments below and we can have a discussion about why you love those series specifically. This list is going to be set in order of where they place them from 10th to 1st. All of these series to me I find to be near perfect to perfect series that I hold very close to my heart, and I imagine it is the same for you guys in the series you have on your list as well. With all that said and done, let's get into the video by talking about the first series on this list. Alright, the first one on this list is a pretty popular series, and I have made a video about this series. However, I don't recommend you watch it as it is one of my earliest videos and it isn't too great. But the series is the Monogatari series. This series is amazing for so many reasons. Firstly, I want to get into the easy stuff. The animation in this series is incredible. It looks so good, everything is extremely well animated and helps to make the experience of the anime that much better. The art as well is incredible, all the characters look amazing, the backgrounds are super cool and unique, the lighting enhances the scene significantly, and overall everything just comes together nicely in the art department to make the whole anime significantly better. Alright, I do want to talk about two things that I think hold this series back though, which are things that can make it pretty difficult to get into the series if you're not aware of them. One of them isn't too bad and can be remedied with a quick Google search, but the other one is just something you're going to have to deal with if you watch this anime. The first one is the watch order for this series. It can be confusing as hell to figure out how you're going to watch this series. However, I personally recommend just watching the series via its release order because that will simplify things a lot. That will put certain plot points in a weird order to when they happen in the story's timeline, but that is also the order you are meant to experience these events at via how the author released the original novels. Now, as for the other problem of this series, if you aren't paying full attention at any given time, can be extremely confusing to follow and can make you not like this series. The characters sometimes say something that is super subtle that sets up a future plot point that you will need to focus on and remember, which can make this series super confusing. However, if you pay attention, everything in this series comes together and makes for an extremely amazing story that puts most other anime to shame, which is why I have this series so highly rated. This series has a good bit of comedy that helps to take away from the more serious moments in this series, which can also help give your mind the mental break it needs from having to constantly put together small things that characters say to other more major plot points. The Monogatari series is incredible, and I highly recommend everyone to at least give it a go because you will not be disappointed. This series has everything going for it, and that is what makes this series so amazing in the first place. The next one is the most recent entry on this list, but is one I just had to add. I haven't felt this giddy and excited when watching an anime in a very long time, but Ranking of Kings is an anime that I absolutely love. I made a video on this series as it was coming out, and this series has only gotten better since I made that video. Ranking of Kings is one of those anime that throw you off with its art style. When you initially go into it, you think it's just going to be some lighthearted show about a boy growing up and becoming a good king. However, when you watch this series, you very quickly realize that this isn't as lighthearted as you initially think it's going to be, and that is one of the reasons why I love this anime so much. But that's not the only reason. I want to talk about the animation in this series for a minute because holy shit is it good. This series has some insane animation quality. It feels like Wit Studio went all out on this anime to make the best experience possible for everyone, and I love that because it enhances everything about this series so much. The character writing in this series is also incredible. All of the characters get their own arcs and you grow to understand every single character and their thought process. Boji is such a lovable kid and Kage is the best sidekick ever. Even Boji's brother Daida is a really good character who has a massive character arc that makes his character take a full 180 from what we initially saw, which I love. There are also some characters who are the exact opposite of what you expected them to be, which made the series a lot more compelling and awesome. This series does have one problem though. It's not a problem that I think is all that bad personally, but I have heard others complain about it, so I thought I'd bring it up. The ending. The ending of the series gets some criticism for not having an end with Boji being king, but to me, I think it's fine. It sets up things for a potential second season and allows us to know that there's more story out there to tell. I understand why some people didn't like it as the entire series revolved around Boji growing strong so he can become king, but you know what? It isn't so bad and doesn't hold the series back from what made it incredible in the first place. The world building in this series is incredible as well and makes the entire story come together, and that is actually the biggest reason as to why I'm not mad at the ending because I love this world and I want to explore more of it in the future. Alright, the next on this list is one that I like the manga more than the anime for, but I still love the anime for what type of story it is. The series is Bloom Into You. Bloom Into You is a series that when I first watched it, I didn't really know what I was going to get myself into, but as I watched it, the series helped me to discover myself. The character writing in the series is next level and makes the series amazing. The two main characters have such amazing character arcs that make you want to keep watching the series. The side characters are also really well written and also go through some amazing character arcs that make the series so amazing. Most Yuri series are just basically fan service series where the characters don't really change much and the story is kinda mid. But Bloom Into You changes that up and allows the characters to go through struggles and change and make the story so much better because of it. The animation in the series is also quite good and enhances the series a lot. It isn't the greatest of all time or anything, but it does look really good and definitely helps this series. The music is godlike and makes the emotional moments in this series hit so much harder. This series is amazing. I highly recommend everyone to check out this series, especially if you're struggling to find yourself. Next up on this list is a series that I have never really talked about before, but is a series that I truly love. This series came out around the same time as the Bloom Into You anime as well, so it made it really hard to pick between which of these two series I liked more. However, I can definitely say that I like Bunny Girl Senpai more than Bloom Into You. Bunny Girl Senpai is a series that in a lot of ways is very similar to the Monogatari series, however it is also quite different and hits in a very different way. So firstly, let's get all the regular easy stuff out of the way and then move on to the fun bit. The animation in this series is really good. It looks super clean and helps to enhance the series a lot. This series also has a sequel movie that accompanies it that also looks amazing and doesn't hold itself back at all, which is awesome. The soundtrack for this series is next level. I love listening to the music in this series. It has such a range of emotions that I love to hear when listening to music. The OP is also a bop that doesn't hold back for even a second, making the whole experience awesome. Honestly, everything in this series just comes together and works so nicely. It's insane how good this series is. Like, with the Monogatari series, you can definitely end up being a little confused on what's happening as you're sitting through the series. However, with this series, if you pay attention, it should all make sense and come together to make for a really interesting and compelling story. The character writing in this series is amazing. This series shines with its characters. All the characters have awesome backstories, amazing motivations, and pretty interesting personalities that bring them all together and allows all of their struggles to make so much sense. The main guy also isn't your typical MC in that he just isn't some bland self-insert protagonist who you can throw yourself into. He actually has a real personality and it shows through in his actions and how he develops throughout the course of the series, which that honestly just makes the whole series that much more fun because of how they decided to write his character. This series is a true masterpiece and is a series that I absolutely love. It has everything you could ask for in a series and that is what makes it such a banger. This time we're going to be talking about a movie. This movie is so damn amazing and it's a movie that sadly gets overshadowed by another movie that came out in the same year it did. And with that statement, I'm sure you know exactly what movie I'm talking about. It's A Silent Voice. This movie is a masterpiece flat out. This movie is so good, I even watched it with my parents once and they loved it as well. This movie hits on so many emotions that just make everything so amazing. This movie sadly gets overshadowed by Your Name, which is also a really amazing film that came out in the same year, but to me, A Silent Voice just hit all the notes which made it a film that is a million times better in my opinion. The animation in this movie is godlike. Of course, it is a movie and it is also done by Kyoto Animation, so none of that really is all that surprising. But holy crap does this film look amazing. I can't get over just how amazing this film looks. Honestly, if it wasn't for a certain other series that I may or may not mention later in this video, this movie might have been the most beautiful thing Kyoto Animation has ever worked on. Even the soundtrack for this film is beautiful. Every song in this soundtrack just hits you with so many different emotions all the time. It's not very often where a single piece of music can make me cry, but the main OST of this series is definitely one of those songs that does that. The music in this series just has this powerful emotional tone to it that just makes everything so amazing. The character writing in this series is truly next level. All of the characters just come together so nicely, which makes the whole experience amazing. Every single character has struggles they are going through. Each of them are struggling to figure themselves out. With their struggles, these characters find each other and in certain cases find each other again, and because of all of that, the characters grow to become better people than they were at the start of the film. Although some struggle more than others trying to get there, but that's pretty normal, so it helps make the film experience a million times better. One thing I want to briefly mention before moving on to the next series is the voice acting in this movie. I don't typically talk about voice acting in my videos because I don't really know anything about what sounds good and what doesn't, as I'm sure you're all aware if you've made it this far into the video. But anyway, the voice acting in this series, specifically from Shoko, just hits. Playing a deaf character is probably already really hard to do on its own, but then having to have all that emotion thrown in there as well just makes it hit so much harder and really enhances the movie experience so much. This next section might be a little short because of how long it's been since I've seen this series. I somehow managed to convince myself that this series can only be watched once for you to enjoy it, so I haven't seen it in like 5 years. This series' name is Shinsekaiori, or From the New World in English. This series is amazing. Everything in this series is incredible. The world building in this series is next level. They set so much up in the early parts of the story that pay off tremendously in the latter half of the story. The world is super interesting to learn about as well. They make the history of this world so intriguing that you really want to listen and learn more. The animation in this series is also godlike. It looks incredible. Honestly, it's not very often that you get to see animation of this quality in anime. Hell, only a few of the series I've mentioned in this video alone can be for that spot. The art is probably the best part of this series though, like the animation is incredible, but the art makes you want to keep watching. This series has this dark and weary vibe to it, and the art definitely reflects that. This anime was the first horror anime I ever watched. I'm not a huge horror fan because I'm a pussy, but this series despite that compelled me and got me extremely invested and made me sit through the entire series and quickly became one of my favorite anime of all time. Don't even get me started on the music for this series, it's so amazing. There's no OP in this series, but the main OST fits the feel of the series perfectly and really encapsulates what this series is all about and what you're getting yourself into. The character writing in this series is also amazing. We get to see a large portion of these characters' lives from when they were in high school to all the way into adulthood. And through all that time that passes, we see the development of these characters and how realistic they are despite the unrealistic setting. As more time passes, the characters mature and grow, and as they grow, they start to learn more about both the good and the bad side of the world, as well as learning some truths that some people don't want to be revealed. This series is extremely dark and can certainly be hard to sit through, but this series takes its premise and runs with it, making an extremely compelling coming-of-age story that you want to watch and see where the hell it's going to go next. This next series is one I've made a video about before. I don't really recommend that video as it isn't super good, but it's still relevant to the discussion. This next series I'm talking about is the series that got me to branch out further from shonen isekai fantasy action series. It got me to realize that anime of any genre can be amazing, and that series is Toradora. If you were to look at this series objectively and compare it to the author's other work Golden Time, it's probably not better, let's be real here. However, this series has a very special place in my heart that makes me rate this series so insanely highly. The animation for its time is really good. There are definitely some rough patches in there for sure, but for the most part the animation is solid and keeps everything flowing very nicely. The art in this series is also pretty decent and makes the series great to sit through. The character designs are awesome and really help you to sit through this series and love the characters. The backgrounds are beautiful and gets you to really like the town and the school vibe going on. It all just looks great, making everything in this series come together. The music in this series is incredible. As I mentioned earlier with A Silent Voice, it's not very often a soundtrack can make me cry by just listening to it, but the music in this series just has all the emotional notes it needs to hit. I'm about to say something blasphemous, which I'm sorry about, but I don't really listen to EDs all that much to try and save a bit of time in an episode, but every single time Orange plays, you know I'm listening to that. That ED is incredible and makes everything come together nicely into one neat package. The character writing in this series is insanely good. All the characters grow so much throughout the course of the series, but it also feels very natural and not forced at all, which is amazing. The romance in the series makes all the character development amazing as well and just makes the whole series come together and makes the series never feel boring. Because as you're watching this series and seeing these characters grow, it allows you to look inside yourself and can help you grow as a person as well, which is awesome. Alright, we're finally entering the top 3. All of these series are series that have a very special place in my heart for one way or another. These series are extremely emotional roller coasters that I absolutely love, and at number 3 is the series known as Fruits Basket, the remake specifically. This series is fucking incredible. It is gorgeous in every sense of the word. Everything about this series just works and comes together nicely to make the ultimate anime. The animation in the series is some of the best I have seen in all of anime. It all culminates in scenes that hit so hard and makes all your emotions flow out of you. The art in this series is amazing as well. I'm not hating on the manga art, but the manga has nothing on the Fruits Basket anime remake. All of the characters look amazing, the backgrounds are beautiful and almost picturesque. Everything just comes together to make the ultimate experience. Don't even get me started on the music for this series. There are so many moments that wouldn't have hit anywhere near as hard if it wasn't for the absolutely god tier soundtrack that accompanies this series. I find myself listening to the soundtrack for this series so often because of how good it is. It is extremely emotional. All of the OSTs are amazing and really get you to feel the emotions they want you to feel. The OPs are all bangers and fit the feeling of their seasons and what is happening in those seasons perfectly. Everything in this series just works and comes together nicely. The English dub for this series is also amazing, so it has the wider appeal as well. The character writing in this series is insane. All of the characters have these insanely compelling backstories that get you invested in their characters. Every one of the characters gets a massive amount of development throughout the series, as well as making it all amazing. As we learn more about all of the characters, you start to get more and more emotional towards them, and it makes the ending of this series hit so hard and actually makes it one of the best I have seen in anime. The supernatural elements of this series help to enhance all of the characters as well, as the characters are tied to whatever zodiac they represent and they are trying to break free from whatever rule they were given, which is incredible and makes the story so compelling. Alright, this next anime is an anime that I hold very, very close to my heart. It is the only anime that I have watched a non-canon spin-off movie just to get more content from it because I love the series that much. The series I am referring to is Violet Evergarden. This anime is one of the greatest anime ever created. The story this anime tells is super compelling. It's a story about a girl discovering herself, and it hits you in the feels in almost every single episode. This series is insanely good. Everything about it is amazing, and I'm going to explain to you why. Firstly, let's talk about the animation. I'm sorry, Demon Slayer, but you have nothing on this series. I stand by the fact that Violet Evergarden is the most beautiful anime ever created. The animation is incredibly smooth and looks clean as hell. The art is gorgeous and makes the whole series come together. This series looks like a movie all on its own. I honestly didn't think this series could improve at all when the movie came out, and I was blown away by how amazing the movie looked. This series was already incredibly beautiful before, but once that movie dropped, it took it from a 10 to a 25 and completely blew me out of the water. The character designs in this series are also incredible. You can tell what type of person someone is by the way they dress and how they conduct themselves, which is awesome as that makes the whole series come together insanely well. The music in this series is next level as well and makes everything in this series enhanced 100-fold. The OSTs are beautiful pieces of music that have so much animation put behind them, and it just makes listening to the music so emotional. There are so many amazing pieces of music in this series that can go unnoticed at times because a lot of it is pretty atmospheric and can fall under the radar, but it all comes together to make one of the best anime possible. Finally, let's talk about the character writing in this series. It's incredible. All the characters have this compelling story to them and it gets you invested in their story. And Violet has a god tier character arc that makes you look at her character in an entirely different light from before. Everything about this series is incredible and really comes together in a nice and compelling way to make one of the best anime ever created. And finally, we get to the number 1 spot on this list. If you've been watching the channel long enough, then you probably already know what I'm gonna say, but this series not only has a special place in my heart, but it changed me as a person to who I am today. This series is incredible and I highly recommend that everyone tries it. The series I'm referring to is Clannad and Clannad After Story. And yes, I do mean both seasons. I know a lot of people don't like the first season of Clannad for pacing reasons and other similar problems, but the first season I feel like is just as good. The pacing isn't even terrible at all. Each arc in the first season is about 3 to 4 episodes in length, and they help to develop and establish our characters going forward, and this season still finds a way to spend most of its time in the main story and relationship. If it wasn't for the first season, the moments in the second season wouldn't hit anywhere near as hard. You need this setup to make the payoff worth it. And as for After Story, I don't really think much needs to be said. This series is incredible. It has some of the most emotional moments in all of anime. This anime will literally change you as a person. It will make you realize how important family and friends can be and make you cherish them even more than you may already do. There's so much about this series that just works really well and makes the story so much more incredible. Let's get all that stuff out of the way first. To this day, the animation holds up extremely well. This anime looks beautiful and all of the heavy moments still hit extremely hard. The art in this series, I'll admit, is a little aged. It has that early 2000s big-eyed character designs. However, I think the series still looks amazing and the character designs are still good. The backgrounds are nice and make the whole feel of the anime come together nicely for the ultimate experience. The music in this series is amazing as well. Every single piece of music comes together and makes all the emotion flow out of you. Maeda Jun, the creator of this series, is a legend and makes so many great stories and pieces of music, and he certainly didn't hold back with this series either. Dango Daikazoku, Roaring Tides, and the second version of that song, as well as Snowfield, all of these pieces of music are beautiful songs that make me cry every single time I hear them being played. Clannad is an incredible series that will definitely get you in the feels a lot. Despite all the praise I've said so far, the characters are still the best part of the series and make for all the best moments. All the characters have awesome personalities that allow them to bounce off of each other really well and makes everything amazing. There are characters who are solely focused on making you laugh, and they do that. However, even those characters have a level of depth to them that you don't get to see in a lot of comedic relief characters in other series. These characters also grow a lot as well, which is surprising to see. There's also the regular side cast who all have their moments in the spotlight where each of them can make you shed some tears. Somehow, Clannad perfected character writing in a way that is hard to match. Not to say it's never been done though. The characters in this series are extremely realistic and feel like real people that get you really invested in this series as well, and makes all of the emotional moments hit so much harder, because it feels like one of your own friends is going through all these struggles and it makes you want to help them in any way you can. The supernatural elements in this series are awesome as well and get you to ask so many questions as the series keeps playing all the way until you get to the end of the series and you get your answers. It's crazy how well Clannad ties up all of its loose ends and hits with such an amazing ending that will make you cry for a very long time after watching it. Clannad is amazing, and I highly recommend that everyone check this series out if you haven't, because you won't be disappointed if you do that much, I can definitely promise you. Every single person has a top 10 favorite anime list. For some people, it may be harder to choose than others. There are certainly different criteria for different people as well, but I hope we can all agree that this is all just opinion based and nothing that I said in this video is objective. I just wanted to talk about all of these anime in a video and recommend some people some anime that I truly love. So I hope that I was able to convince some people to check some of these series out if they haven't already, because there's never too much love that can be spread about these series.